I'm Lindsay Alexander, and this is mybanktracker.com. Believe it or not, we have the year 1861 to thank for tax season. It all started during the Civil War. There needed to be support and funds for the war effort, and that started income tax. People who were making $800 at that time were taxed 3%, which helped pay for the war supplies. A year after that is when a tax bracket came to be. For example, anyone who earned $10,000 or more was taxed 5%, which became the highest tax bracket. Anyone making less than that was taxed 3%, and they were in the lower tax bracket. When the war ended and efforts were no longer needed, that's when taxation began. Then a few decades later, in the 1890s, the government had the power from the U.S. Constitution to charge income tax to different states, all based on the population, but then was soon abolished after the U.S. Supreme Court deemed it unconstitutional. Then in 1913, the government went back to the power to institute a tax, but not by population. And now to this day, we're all responsible to pay our taxes based on our income. And there were times in American history that income tax and rates have been cut when the economy was going well. But during World War II, things changed when the Great Depression hit. Tax rates went up because of the need of funds to support the war. In 1944, the lowest tax rate was 23%, and the highest rate was 94% for people earning $200,000 or more. Then in the 1980s, tax cut actions by the government changed the number of tax brackets. In 1986, there were 15 tax brackets, but then 1 year later, there were only 5. Financial experts at the time thought that high tax rates would discourage people from working. Tax cuts were pushed into action to stimulate economic growth. Since then, tax rates fluctuate and not much has changed since the tax process. All of this tax history, which is here today, is known as progressive income tax system. So taxes will continue to grow as long as the income is made. People who earn a high income will pay more in taxes, and people who earn low income will pay less taxes because that's just what they can afford. It's understandable if you're still not sure what tax bracket category you fall into. Keep in mind that the tax bracket you fall under will determine the tax rate you made on the final dollar you made in a year. Your overall income will be taxed at a lower rate. The rate you pay for your first $8,000 you made in a year will not be the same as last $8,000 you made. It's important to know your tax bracket because you want to know what to expect when filing income taxes for the year. You'll also need to know where you're at with the tax bracket so you know how to reduce your taxable income, either to contribute to a 401k or an IRA for your retirement. So basically, to tell what your taxable income is, you cannot go by your annual salary. You'll have to calculate the amount of income that remains after your contributions are made. You'll also need to deduct the amount of eligible deductions that is allowed by the IRS to get more of a close estimate. You can use your previous income tax return to get an estimate, but if you've made a larger amount of money or received a bonus at work, a new figure will have to be calculated. Tax brackets are a range of income levels, which would be affected by different factors each year, including inflation changes, and tax brackets can change on an annual basis and may change based on how you file your taxes, whether you file as a married or single individual. Since the tax rate changes each year, you'll have to check into the Internal Revenue Service to see where they are and how you file every year. The first few $1,000s of your income will be taxed at one rate. The next range of your income is taxed at a different rate, and so on and so on. The highest tax rate your income incurs is referred to as your marginal tax rate. I'm Lindsay Alexander with mybanktracker.com, and together we're going to build your finances and rebuild the world.